Steve Sarkisian. We get him a couple times a year. Love having him on the show. 5th year at Texas, football coach. And, we were talking about this. The NFLPA yesterday came out with grades on food, facilities, how you treat the players. And what I saw was 20 coaches got A's. So in the relationship that matters, coaches and players like each other. In college football, though, Sark, it's a little different. Facilities matter because the players choose you. But I've always had this theory. When you were at USC, those facilities were not good. And my take was that there was an edge, a chip to the Trojans that some of it was, we're not like Oregon. We don't have pretty facilities. Do you ever worry about, listen, Texas football's got a lot of money. We want nice facilities. We don't want it to be a country club. Do you think about that?
Oh, you have to think about that. I think there's got to be an edge to what you do, the way you operate, the way you develop your culture, the way you practice, the way you work out. And so you have to make sure that there's levels of hard, we like to say, and that you can overcome hard. And that's whether that's on the football field, as I said, in the weight room, things of that nature. Because if it is too nice, I hate to use the word, you can find a way to soft if it's too nice. And so, and clearly, I think our program has shown that over time, we've developed a hardness and edge about us in the way we operate.
It is funny because I said that for years. I remember when Oregon had Autzen Stadium, and then they got a new stadium, and Phil Knight gave them all that money, and the following year they couldn't tackle. And I said, all of us, and the crowd got quieter because it was so expensive for tickets. I do believe you have an edge. When you say and I do believe that. I think you lost Ohio State. Ohio State was the best team in football last year. They just were. They blew Tennessee out and Oregon out. I look at you and you developed an edge. And I always said, I think USC and Texas are glamour programs. Notre Dame's in bad weather in a small town. Do you develop that edge? Is it a coach? Is it a mindset? I mean, you have 5-star players everywhere. How do you do it?
I think it's everywhere. Colin, I was fortunate. I was at SC, obviously, with Coach Carroll in the heyday, and we were recruiting a bunch of great players at that time. And then the level of consistency of which we operated, and I think it started at the top with him, and then it permeated through the staff, the organization, the players, the training room, the equipment room. It was everybody. And then to have an opportunity to get with Coach Saban, and years, I think 16 and 17 years, whatever, how many years that he had been there, that I was there for a couple of them. He clearly had instituted it in his own way too, right. In recruiting the 5-star players, 4- and 5-star players. But yet there was a toughness, a mindset, a culture that had been developed throughout that organization. And I just felt like, man, we can create that here. But it had to start from me, and it had to permeate, like I said, through the staff and the players we recruited, but it had to be the training room, the weight room, academics, all parties involved had to been rowing the boat kind of in the same direction. And now with our players, the standard is the standard, and our older players who have been here understand that. But they also understand they need these young players to be as successful as we want to be. So they have to teach them the way as quickly as possible.
I really like that you canceled the spring game. And it took a little courage because people are going to push back, and you and about 4 other programs did it. And my takeaway, I had a discussion with Jen Cohen, who's the athletic director at USC, and I said, you're pro football. I mean, I said, you just got to come to terms with it. You need a general manager. You're paying the players. Your schedule now, it's like the NFL. You have to beat 3 to 4 good teams in a row. It's really about attrition. Do you have the depth? If you get banged up like Kansas City and lose a left tackle, you're probably not going to win a Super Bowl. So for you, when you're in a traditional program and you say, I'm going to cancel the spring game, my takeaway was it was a little bit of a delicate conversation. Or did everybody at Texas go, guys, we can cling on to this old stuff or come to terms with we're about 70% pro football now?
Well, I think you're right. And I don't know if we're ever going to get everybody right, because for some people that might have been one of the highlights of their year is coming to the spring game and having an opportunity to see some of the new faces, new players. But things have changed so much. I think about, we just played a 16-game schedule.
Crazy.
And we started August 31st. We finished January 10th. Playing 14 games the year before being in the CFP semifinals 2 years in a row. So we've played 30 games in a 2-year span. When you go back to when spring games started, that's really 3 seasons. Remember, everyone used to play 10 games.
Yeah.
And now things have evolved. Things have changed. I've got 21 high school mid-years that are already in school that should be high school seniors that are now with us trying to develop their craft. And so the timing has changed. The amount of games we're playing has changed. The development of your young players have changed. But to your point, the depth has changed. And I'm going to need all these guys to be at their to hopefully be at their best in December and January of next season, which is definitely an NFL type model. And when you lose a player or two, you sure hope that backup or the backup's backup can go in and give you quality reps to beat a Georgia or an Ohio State or a Notre Dame, whoever that is that you're going to have to play late in those playoffs.
So I've said before, I think this about every 3 or 4 years we get a draft where we have about 4 elite quarterbacks. There was the Burrow, Herbert draft. That's a little bit of an outlier. But we're getting more and more good quarterbacks because the high school coaching is better, the camps are better. You're just seeing more high-quality drafts. It used to be, we said the Elway Marino draft was like an outlier. You get that about every 3rd year now. I think this is the year of B to B plus quarterback prospects. I think Shedeur, I think Quinn Ewers, Riley Leonard, Kyle McCord. I think in a weird way, because they're not, Cam Ward's ready to play today. He's just the arm, the movement, he's different. But in an interesting way, it may benefit Riley Leonard and Quinn Ewers. You may drop. You may go to a better team. You don't have to play immediately. So if I draft Quinn Ewers, give me the thing he needs to work on and give me the thing that is pro-ready right now.
Yeah, I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to start with why it makes him pro-ready. I think one, playing in our market. You know, Austin, I think we've got 1.5 million people in the city of Austin with no pro sports, right? With no NFL, no NBA, no Major League Baseball. And so the microscope you're under, the scrutiny, the media coverage, the national media coverage, the brand, the having to have to be at your best under that, I think sets you up and gets you ready for the NFL where you're not so consumed of what other people think, but rather I need to focus, I need to prepare, I need to take care of my body, I need to be in the game plan. I think those things are really helpful to go along with all the physical attributes. There's not a throw that guy can make, that he can't make, excuse me. I think naturally all young players, when they go from college to the NFL, and I liken myself, I think about the Tom Brady's of the world, the Aaron Rodgers, these guys that play for so long in the NFL. Why do they play so long? They don't get hurt, right? And they know where their issues are. They take care of their body off the field, but they take care of their body on the field. And I know the game of football in the NFL is evolving, and I credit a lot of those coaches. And I think that's why there's quarterbacks getting drafted higher and higher now, because I think the NFL is adapting to some degree of what's going on in college football. But to that point, I think his ability to maintain his body, because it's not going to be about him knowing what to do or having the physical ability to do it. I think ultimately it's going to be putting himself in the best physical condition to perform week in and week out.
So I think the NIL is rough. And I don't like my coaches having to be GMs. GMs are now getting hired everywhere. In pro football, money isn't a real thing because everybody's a pro. Everybody's getting paid. In college football, you could have a quarterback making $2.75 million and a kicker, getting lunch money. How do you balance that? I think it's much tougher than people to balance that. Hey, there's 2 guys that are going to make big money. Do you talk about it? Do you discuss it? Do you pay I don't think I love paying high school players, but if you want to get a 5-star left tackle, you may have to pay a high school player and not play a junior on your team who's an all-conference guy, doesn't get that much. Is it hard and murky for you coaches to dance around that payment thing?
Well, I'm sure it's difficult for everybody. I think I don't want to say we're in a different position, but the reality of it is, I'm very upfront and honest with our guys, and I understand not everybody gets paid the same on our roster, but what you get paid does not dictate how much you play in our organization. The players that earn it on the field, the players that do the things the right way on and off the field, that put the team in the best position to be successful are the ones that play for us. And so it's not about how much you get paid through NIL. It's ultimately about, who gives us the best opportunity to be successful as a team. And I make that very clear with our players. And so I think they understand that because when we hit the grass, when we go in the weight room, when we're in the classroom learning and studying, I think that's what determines who plays. And now that may reshuffle the deck going into the next season. But the reality of it is NIL in our program does not dictate who plays.
Yeah. Finally, you guys are opening your seat. I have always said there's a handful of programs. USC would do this. Texas does this. Michigan has done this. And I like the idea of you just opening up with a big old dog, Ohio State. Here we go. I mean,
I'm glad you like it.
So, but here's the good news. The playoffs, Steve, allowed Ohio State as a 20-point favorite to deliver their worst performance in a decade. They were awful against Michigan, and they still made the playoffs. So my take is, I'll argue this is actually great for your program. You'll be able to measure where you're at. Now, again, it'd be nice maybe to play Miami of Ohio and have you could work your way into the season. When you look at that game, how do you view it? How much importance? Does it change the way you practice going into it because it's the Buckeyes?
Yeah, I think, we've had some pretty good experience with this, and I know they weren't all in week one. Obviously, we played Alabama out of conference 2 years in a row when we were here in year 2 and in year 3. And then last year we went to Michigan. They were defending national champs in week 2. And then this year we're going to Ohio State, the defending national champions in week 1. And so I love this opportunity. I know I was joking with you earlier, but I love the opportunity. I think it's great for our players in summer workouts and in training camp to know who we're getting ready to go play and the task at hand. I think now, to your point with the expanded playoffs, as long as we don't punish those teams for going to play those games, that it's great for college football, man. It's opening weekend, and it's Texas at Ohio State. It's a rematch of the semifinal game in last year's playoffs. And, it's great for their program. It's great for our program because that's what the players we recruit, those are the games they want to play in. They want to be in those big-time games. Now, granted, we have other games on our schedule that hopefully we can play a lot of players to develop our players along the way. But this is a great opportunity for both programs. Somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. But hopefully the team that doesn't win that game doesn't get punished from the committee for playing in that game early in the season. Because I think that's the hardest part with the committee when they're trying to decide who's worthy of being one of those 12 teams. And it's always right. It's teams 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And looking at strength of schedule, looking at who you play rather than just staring at the record. Who did you play? How did you play in those games? I think is as important as anything.
Finally, Arch Manning, Texas football, massive brand, back-to-back semifinals. You'll be favored again. How do you avoid title or bust? Because I'm telling you, all the eyes are on you guys with Arch Manning. 2-0 last year, scoring 40. Steve, there are a lot of people that they're going to come in hard and hot early. How do you simmer that down?
Well, I think that's why we're here, right? I mean, Colin, you know me well enough over the years. I had plenty of opportunities to be a head coach again. And when this job was presented to me, I didn't take this job just to say I was a head coach again. I came here because I believed we could be champions, conference champions, national champions. And that's the standard here. And that's what we're competing for. It was no different than the last 2 seasons, whether it was in the Big 12, the SEC, and obviously the college football playoff. And I believe through all of that, we've recruited really good players. We've developed those players. I mean, we have 14 players at the NFL Combine this week. We had 11 last year, which was a school record, 11 draft picks last season. And, like I said, 14 more in this year's NFL Combine. So the reality is this is why we're here. And we embrace this opportunity. We're going to look forward to it. We're going to go for it. We understand we're going to get everybody's best shot, but again, that's okay. That's why our players chose to come to Texas. That's why the coaches that are coaching here chose to be at Texas is to be on the stage and to go compete for national titles.
Yeah, a Manning Texas football meets Ohio State. That's going to be one for the ages. A lot to look forward as somebody who watches and loves college football. Sark, as always, hook 'em. Good seeing you again.
Thanks, man. Hook 'em.
All right. Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.